So we're gonna maybe check out this video. Uh,
We are going to see
this
such
is
a
a
panic.
video by the Vanguard. The Vanguard, I've tried to watch them a couple times. It's not like I disagree with them on much, but I do think that, no offense to them, I do think they're maybe a little bit too animated for me or something. Like they're too, uh, I don't know. They give me the vibe like they're trying to be a little too like animated, I guess. And so maybe that's why I don't really like enjoy watching them that much. But I did want to hear Matt Leck here discuss. This is about Anna Kasparian, my my favorite liberal, I guess, turned what like transphobic, uh, reactionary centrist, I guess. I don't really know exactly what Anna Kasparian identifies as anymore. For someone who seems to hate trans people a lot, she really needs to like her identity is really up in the air. It's really hard to identify just like by looking at her. So she really needs to tell me what she identifies as now, because I would have to assume that she's a TERF at this point. But let's see what Matt Leck has to say. Oh, this is Matt Leck sets the record straight. Is Anna Kasparian anti-Semitic? Maybe she identifies as that now. I don't know. But I think this is about the whole Goyim thing. Goy is becoming, I guess, popularized, especially in neo-Nazi circles or whatever. So, like the term Goy, which for those unaware, it's like the I think they use it interchangeable with like Goyim. I think is just like a Hebrew word for like non-Jewish essentially or whatever, like a non-Jewish person, as far as I'm aware. But a lot of people, especially there's a lot of like historical books and stuff that have it uh, have used it from like Nazis basically who have used it as like viewed and interpreted it as a racist word towards non-Jewish people, essentially, or whatever, and they create reactionary propaganda using the term goy. So uh, the fact that it's coming back is a little bit, maybe a little bit concerning, but I don't think it has that much power. I guess really at this point, so it's not a huge deal. So really, this is more just having fun with Anna Kasparian, and we'll see what they have to say here. But this is Matt Lex sets the record straight. Is Anna Kasparian anti-Semitic?
By the donor class that is trying to maintain support for Israel across both parties, that you will never, like,
Ripping
we're
a
not
fat
even really
cloud.
prepared for it. And maybe
Sorry. So Gentile, sorry, Gentile is different. I don't. So I'll have to. You know what? Let's just learn together here. Wait, Goyim versus Gentile. Okay, let's see. I'll just put it up here. We're going to trust Google AI overview. Goyim and Gentile both refer to non-Jewish people but differ in origin and connotation. Goy is a Hebrew word meaning nation, often used colloquially in Yiddish English for a non-Jew. Gentile is from Latin, commonly used in for blah blah blah. Uh, is a Hebrew term used within Jewish communities. Gentile is an English word used in Christian adjacent communities. Yeah, it literally means nation or people. So they're I guess like somewhat similar. Gentile I guess is the English word, and Hebrew and Goyim is a little bit more Hebrew, and they have slightly different meanings. I tried to give some historical context as well for uh, what like how it was used and like by racist reactionaries and stuff. So yeah, Gentile was in the Bible. You are correct. But okay, let's start over here. Let's see what Matt Leck has to say.
we are going to see such a panic by the donor class that is trying to maintain support for Israel across both parties that you will never,
It's a fat
like, we're
cloud,
not even
dude.
really prepared for it. And maybe the Iran war, takes some of that energy away from like our domestic politics. But I think we're going to see extreme measures. I don't think we're going to see, particularly the Israel lobby, respond to this in a sensible way at all. I was stunned by that I was unfamiliar with that guy's game about what he said about Israel. I was impressed by it before I knew he said it on October 8th, frankly, and that he was able to withstand. I imagine that came up. I imagine it did. Maybe there's not a whole
I
lot of
don't know
opera going on
exactly
in
what
that
they're
mind or
talking
whatever,
about right now.
that he was, because what he said was absolutely true, and it was the thing that needed to be said on October 8th. And I was glad I was on Ben Burgess' show.
There's a
on
lot
the
of
day
things that
after.
need to be
I
said.
said pretty much the same thing. This history doesn't start here, and these sorts
Dude,
of
if anyone was around October 8th, it was rough being pro-Palestine. Like it was, people were insane. Like it was like psychotic, the things that I was seeing back then.
horrors when they happen. You have to be able to look at whether or not a system that is being upheld is provoking that sort of outburst. And the truth is,
And then a lot of people also, they got really mad at people going out and protesting for Palestine on October 8th. And it was so frustrating to me because it's like if you've known about this, you've known about this apartheid for so long, and you feel so much for the Palestinian people, and you just know exactly what's going to happen. Like you know what's going to happen. Like yes, you need to go out there on day one, and but then they just smeared everybody who went out there to protest on October 8th as like terrorist sympathizers and supporters, and it was just and the media. Sorry, okay, I'm getting distracted. This is supposed to be a fun video. I'm sorry.
that's how adults have to look at these things. There's a book that I talk about all the time, 1827, early in American fiction history, called Hope Leslie, or Early Times in
He's
the
so well read,
Massachusetts.
dude.
And it was set 200 years before it was actually published in the 1600s, but it was about a Native American uprising and slaughter of colonists.
Wow.
And one of the main characters is a young Indian girl named Hope Leslie, and she says, when the hour of vengeance comes, remember that it was provoked.
Mm.
And if a early American novelist can say that in the 1800s, we should be able to say that now and not have to go to this blackmail where history started on October 7th. And how dare you try to say that this was in any way provoked or encouraged by negligence of the Israeli state, because it clearly was.
Always go back, and always you should. The reason that I got so invested in Palestine was because I read a lot about indigenous people's history in America, and I saw what Israel was doing, and it was the exact same thing. It was every tactic that we used on the indigenous people of America. And so, like, I don't know. I think that that's if you feel a certain way about that back then, you should feel the same way now.
Like this is the long history of Israel. They will push people until they break, and then they will use that break as an excuse to do further brutalization. This is a pattern that anybody with basic pattern recognition should acknowledge. I will say Summer Lee might be another
Sure.
representative.
I almost added Summer Lee, but I wasn't as intimately familiar with her voting record. But I agree, nothing but big love and praise for Summer Lee out in Pennsylvania. And just to mention really quickly, Matt, one of the things that really informed my commentary in the aftermath of October 7th, right? Because there were a lot of people that were like, you guys need to condemn this, and it's like the reality. I kept thinking about something that Michael Brooks used to say all the time on your guys' show back in the day when he would talk about David Cameron would refer to the situation in Gaza as an open air prison. This is one of the most conservative prime ministers in modern history over in the UK. And even if he can, with his own eyes, identify that these people were being held against their will in an open air prison, like you cannot argue.
Have a good rest
that
of your
this
day
was
too.
An unprovoked retaliation. You could argue that it was an act of war that resulted in the lives of civilians being lost, but you cannot say it was unprovoked.
Okay,
yeah,
let's get to the
goy.
Let's get to the goy portion of this.
They're our greatest ally. They could do no wrong. Tucker Carlson, a very real commentary about how there are going to be pernicious and nefarious folks who use this as a cover for anti-Semitism. I would be
okay.
really
I think
curious
they're getting into it now.
Would, as somebody who obviously understands anti-Semitism, is both used as a shield from very valid criticism, but also when it comes to people like Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, a very real conspiracy and a harmful one that they're willing to traffic in. So when you see people, come out and say the Goyim are waking up and, whatever, but they also are correctly criticizing Israel a lot of the time. How do you weigh the fact that you do not want to be, creating more hysteria where people are accused of anti-Semitism, but you also do not want to allow people who identify as being ostensibly on the left get away with the basic moral code of what it means to be a leftist in this country?
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer is I consider those people nationalists. Anybody who's willing to sort of analyze the situation as if it is a religious conflict or even an ethnic one is obscuring what it actually is, which is a settler colonial project, which is fostering extreme nationalism across the entire region. People point out, Zionists will point out, what about the expulsions that happened after the formation of Israel? Well, yes, when you literally decide we're all doing this ethnic nationalism thing now, it has some pretty nasty consequences. And to me, it's not that hard. It's pretty easy to understand that, like, there's when you like, if the talk about Anna Kasparian, the idea that she can't reject people in her replies that are saying the goyim are waking up. That's about Anna and her place in the media ecosystem. It's not about any kind of analysis. She can't say no to a Candace Owens type audience. And Candace Owens, like, remember what you said about Hitler.
She'll get captured. Like, Anna Kasparian will get captured. I mean, she already kind of is, but she'll get captured in the right-wing reactionary pipeline. It's so funny. It's so funny. Dave Rubin, he left the left, and Anna Kasparian and Cenk were so mad about it, and they like talked about it endlessly, and now they're doing the same, and they're just reactionary, and they kind of always were. I started watching TYT maybe, man, when was that? 2016, 2015? Like right when I was kind of still a liberal and learning about this stuff. And they were like an entry point, but even back then they were pretty reactionary. And their inability to like escape from their desire, I think their desire to like make money and like be like a real news network or whatever, and it just keeps them from ever being able to have like moral clarity on a lot of these things. So and so I guess Anna Kasparian said something, or like is like liking tweets or something about like, oh, the goyim are waking up, or like, and so and that's like something that I think a lot of neo-Nazis and right-wingers are saying, and so it's kind of just furthering what they've always kind of been, is just a little bit of like reactionaries, even though they brand themselves as progressives.
The problem was he went outside of the nation. So again, this is just nationalists, and of course nationalists don't really have an understanding about what's wrong with Israel-Palestine, because they can't view it as a problem of nationalism. They view it as a problem of, well, Jewish people. And the thing about Zionism is Jewish people didn't really invent that. This is going to sound a little bit
it was the French. I'm pretty sure it was the French who invented it. They were writing about it around the time of the French Revolution. I know that much, because they were considering doing that, like creating the nation state of Israel back then. The concept might have been around before then, but
maybe provocative to people who haven't read, people like Ilan Pappé. But I've read our original founding fathers, even before George Washington. People like Cotton Mather in, again, colonial Massachusetts. And guess what? When they were talking about going to war with indigenous populations in the colonial U.S., they were citing the same parts of the Bible. They were talking about Amalek the same way Zionists talk about it now, because they were going off the same book.
It's the exact same thing.
When you allow fundamentalist settler colonies to be animated by this sort of thing, they're going to use whatever culture they have, and often that's religious, to basically support those ends. Those ends being, we need our people to have exclusive dominion over this.
This wasn't as fun as I was hoping.